Okay, we've got an update on several key players ahead of Monday night with guys returning to practice, and Nick Sirianni finally admitted who the starting running back is. Plus, Sean Desai weighs in on why Mario Goodrich could be the answer at slot, and Dallas may have suffered a significant injury loss. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? So curious how many of you bought Kelly Green jerseys, and did anyone buy them from Fanatics? Because apparently there have been all kinds of defects on the shirt jerseys as well as the regular Kelly Green jerseys, and I don't know whether it's stitching or damage or even not getting the numbers straight, so hopefully you didn't run into any of that. But in case you did, Fanatics CEO and former 76ers partner Michael Rubin tweeted an apology saying, "Anytime we let any fan down, it's a failure on our part, and that's on me. That said, I let some of you down and I apologize. We've attempted to reach out to every fan who purchased this product to ensure they received it as expected and make it great if not." Okay, so like I said, hopefully that wasn't you, but in case it was, I've got the contact details for Fanatics customer service in the description in case you need to hit them up. But while we're making apologies, I guess I should make one as well for how wrong I was about James Bradberry playing the slot. Since yesterday, defensive coordinator Sean Desai said he won't sacrifice JB's outside corner role for the nickel.
I state my regret.
Okay, I guess that's not exactly an apology, but I think some people might have misinterpreted my stance on Bradberry's role, because I still don't take Desai's thoughts on JB to mean he'll never line up there.
I was really impressed with how he was taking on to that role and not really sacrificing his corner role, because that's his role. You know what I mean? Like he's our corner, but he was learning that, and then it helps him and I think really everybody in terms of the way we teach it. It helps everybody learn all 11 and why we're doing certain things from a coverage standpoint. You know, because we're all 11 as one.
Look, to me, I don't see Desai making a definitive statement even by saying he's our corner. However, I also don't see Bradberry as the long-term solution. It's more so on a matchup-by-matchup basis. So despite some of the members of the media saying you can scrap the whole idea of JB to the slot, I disagree. Especially when you look at the opponent this week, and like I've talked about before, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are threats to play in the slot quite a bit. For instance, according to Pro Football Focus, Evans spent 23.5% of his offensive snaps lined up inside last year, and Godwin was in the slot 65.9% of the time in 2022, which is why the Philly Voice's Seamus Clancy is foreseeing Slay manning the outside and following Evans around while Bradberry gets snaps both outside and in the slot, leaving second-year corner Josh Jobe with a big role yet again and Mario Goodrich likely seeing the field too. I mean, honestly, I hope this ends up being the case, or at the very least moving JB to the slot when we face dominant tight ends. Because let's not forget, Dallas Goedert noticed it being significantly more difficult going up against Bradberry in training camp, saying just facing somebody like that, it makes you work a little bit harder. You go against a linebacker and a little jab might work. Well, James is more patient. He's seen it and he's a really smart player. So you have to make sure you're on all of your fundamentals when you go up against him, because when you're going against a corner of his caliber, his breaks are so good and his patience is so good. You have to make sure you're not giving him any tells and win at the line of scrimmage, which isn't always easy. So getting reps against him has been really good for all of us, which is why I'll say if it's challenging for Goddard, then I think it's something we should at least deploy a little bit. Although perhaps NBC's Reuben Frank is right that the Eagles believe Mario Goodrich can handle life in the slot. I mean, it certainly seems like Desai's leaning that way.
Yeah, I think he got thrown in there. He got thrown in the fire there unexpectedly, I'm sure, for him. But that's a great lesson for everybody to always be prepared, having that next man up mentality. And I thought he got better as the game progressed. There were some things early that, with some motion things and things like that he kind of just had to feel and settle in there a little bit and gain some confidence. And then it's something we emphasize to all of our guys is in those moments, you got to really rely on your training and your preparation, and the trust that you've got and the techniques that we're teaching. And he got to that point, and he's just going to keep growing from that. It's his first time playing NFL football in that environment on a Thursday night. What a special moment for him to be able to get out there and do that. And now it's time to take the next step and really trust in all of his training and techniques that we're teaching him.
Okay, and I know coaches can be overly optimistic about players at times. However, in this case, Desai's not wrong, where Goodrich did give up a couple gains to KJ Osborne and Justin Jefferson, but then settled in, even forcing a fumble that was unfortunately called back due to an offsides on Kentavious Street. Yet overall, the 23-year-old played fairly well, whose 64.7 grade from PFF ranked 38th out of 96 corners in week 2. So maybe not so bad after all, just like our passing offense.
What the hell are you talking about?
Okay, hold on. I know it's not been up to the standard that we'd like, despite Sirianni saying he thought offensive coordinator Brian Johnson did a great job of taking what the Vikings defense gave him and adjusting to the tune of 44 design runs to ultimately win the game. Yet if you look further into the breakdown and analytics, there's reason to be optimistic that the Birds can get more creative and set Jalen loose. But I'm not going to get into the specific breakdowns, plus I don't think you guys want me to because I'm not an expert analyst, but I've got a link in the description to some really good Eagles film analysis at the Philly Room, since I've had several of y'all asking for a great place that breaks down plays in case you want to check them out. Now, ultimately, does the passing game need to get better? Sure, which isn't hard to see that when Hurts hasn't thrown for over 200 yards in a game and is averaging 6.5 yards per attempt, his lowest in his career, by the way, as well as averaging fewer than 3.5 yards per carry. However, Sirianni feels like the mini break is exactly what the group needed.
We had a lot of discussions on everything, and those guys have done a good job of self-evaluating themselves. I think that's really important to have self-awareness and self-evaluation of what's been working for you and what hasn't. I do that as a head coach, and I know they did that as coordinators, so obviously very beneficial anytime you have that little mini break.
Okay, look, the confidence level may not be sky high, but I do think we return to better numbers this week, and so do the Buccaneers apparently, or at least their fans, with Bucs Nation sharing fans are worried they could get obliterated on Monday night, writing, one of the scariest things about this game for Tampa Bay fans is the very realistic possibility that the Central Florida fairy tale of weeks 1 and 2 will come to a crashing halt. By all accounts, every single one, the Buccaneers are outmatched this week. The Eagles are coming off a mini bye week, and Philadelphia's defensive line is one of the deepest in the league. Jalen Hurts has a top-flight group of weapons at his disposal, supported by a domineering offensive line. Through 2 weeks of football, Baker Mayfield has played mistake-free. This could be the week we see Mayfield's first turnover in a Buccaneers uniform. The Eagles' multi-talented offense could use the opportunity of extra possessions to drive the Bucs into the ground, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could get obliterated on Monday night. I mean, they definitely don't sound confident, and even went on to say the Bucs should lose the game, and obviously I'm biased, but I think so too, especially considering Todd Bowles' remarks from the last time playing Jalen.
This guy can't read. Hey, Mike, keep moving around. He can't read now. He gonna give us a couple.
Let's just say Bowles is going to regret saying that, because remember who Jalen's mentor is?
That's all I needed for him to do that, and it became personal with me.
I don't think Jalen needs any extra motivation anyway, and I expect him to play well, especially with A.J. Brown officially squashing the non-existent beef between the two.
Also, I want y'all to know, no, it was not about targets. I'm sure everybody thought that because he threw me the ball 3 plays in a row afterwards, but no, I was not over there discussing targets or whatever the case might be. It was something that happened earlier, and we was having a discussion about it. And so I know everybody took that out of context, but it's not a big deal. Me and him are still on the same page. We're still growing. We're still trying to become great and get wins, most important.
All right, well, whatever the case was, we can finally put it behind us and look ahead to Monday, where thankfully James Bradberry is out of the concussion protocol participating in practice today, so we'll be good to go against Tampa. And thankfully the same goes for Blankenship, who actually said he could have gone last week, but the medical staff made the decision to hold him out. Plus, RB2, Kenny Gainwell, was back at practice. Hang on, you're probably asking, is he legit RB2? Well, Sirianni seemed to suggest that when talking about DeAndre Swift.
You can just go back to the running back question. Who's the starter? All those things. No, no, I understand, but we're gonna ride the hot hand. Do I think it's sustainable? I mean, I think he's, his body's ready to go, and I don't ever want to put an expectation on anybody of, we'll if he's got the hot hand on Monday night, we'll keep rolling with him. So we feel really good about the work he puts in to make sure that his body's right, and it's hard not to run a ball like that. Give it to him 35 times. It's hard not to do that.
Well, all right. This is the best news I've heard all week. Yes, I know. Obviously, if Agent Zero has some struggles, then we'll most likely start seeing Kenny G, but I'm just glad to hear we're going to ride the hot hand and that it's his job to lose. Sure, that's probably not as much of a shock with him having won the NFC Offensive Player of the Week, but it's not like we haven't seen the Birds make some skeptical decisions before about who to go with. They figure it out eventually, though, right? Speaking of Swift, congrats to Jake 2 times or 2X for winning the drawing of the Agent Zero autographed helmet. So go ahead and shoot me an email at the address in the description so I can get it shipped out. Another change I think most of us are happy to see is a new number 10, with Braden Mann taking Aaron Sipos' role and jersey.
I believe you have my stapler.
Well, I'm sorry. That's just how it goes, and hopefully Mann puts on an impressive showing Monday night. Although a couple guys who won't be in action are wide receiver Quez Watkins, whose hamstring injury appears to be more serious than initially thought, as he didn't practice today. And then Boston Scott looks like he may be trending toward not playing either, as he's still in concussion protocol from the Vikings game. I should also mention that Eagles tight end Brady Russell was signed by the Seahawks to their active roster. And while I loved his energetic play style and contributions to special teams, it's not a huge loss considering the 4 other tight ends we have on the roster. But with that opening the Birds brought back linebacker Kyron Johnson, who's been released and signed a couple times, although given the recent injuries, it's not the worst thing to add depth at the Sam linebacker role. The other bit of news coming out of Dallas today, which is major news, is that Cowboys cornerback Trevon Diggs injured his knee during one-on-ones, and Adam Schefter reported that an MRI confirmed that Trevon Diggs suffered a torn ACL. Obviously terrible news, and I don't care who the team is, we never wish injuries on anybody, so despite what you may feel about Dallas, and me included, you never like to see that. So prayers up for him, hopefully a speedy recovery, but major implications in the NFC East as well as the NFL as a whole. All right, quick reminder that we'll be live streaming the Eagles-Bucs game with play-by-play and reactions, as well as a giveaway Monday night in case anyone wants to swing by. But go ahead and let me know your score predictions as well as what new wrinkles you expect to see from the Birds against Tampa. I'm calling Eagles win 24-20. This has been the Philly Special.